Hello and welcome to our sixth and final episode in our Amoris series, in which we've been looking in detail at the document on family and marriage written by Pope Francis called Amoris Laetitia, or the Joy of Love. In this final episode, we want to sum up the key messages in Amoris and to discuss some practical ways that we can go forth in our families and be a witness to God's love in the world. Later, we're going to be joined by a panel who will discuss how we can continue this journey together, and we're going to hear about some inspiring and practical initiatives that can help strengthen family life and indeed our church. But first, let's look back at some of the contributions so far which have helped us to understand the joy of love.
The opening line of Amoris Laetitia, the joy of love experienced by families is also the joy of the church. It's so important for us to realize that the church is a family of families. And in that, the church recognizes that there are all sorts of different families. There are all sorts of different family situations. But just as the joy and the hope and the dreams of families are also the joy and the hopes and the dreams of the church, so also are the struggles, the difficulties, the pressures, the illness, the economic problems within families. These are also the struggles and the difficulties of the church.
I love that piece in Amoris Laetitia where Pope Francis talks about the fact that you can't have family if you don't have dreams. I think he's talking about women when they're pregnant dreaming of their unborn child, which is such a lovely thing because I know I did it hugely. But he goes on to say, if families don't dream, there isn't then hope, and if there isn't that, there isn't love. And if there isn't that, then life itself gets starved somehow. And that for me is family. It's where there's hope, there's love, and definitely dreams.
When we look at the joy of love, there's a lot of themes and complexity. But there was a thread that weaved its way throughout the document, and that's the idea of the Trinity. Because what's happened at the Trinity is this idea of a love that is given and a love that is received, and there's a flow to it, and this is perfect to animate, to visualize.
Pope Francis is very strong in Amoris Laetitia that love and marriage are reflections of the communion of love, that relationship of love which there is between God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Of course, God is love. So in some ways, marriage and family life, because that's where love is really situated in the world, in some way, marriage and family life has to be a reflection of the love that you find within God, between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Well, we are.
We're 50 years married this year, and Pierce is 80 this year, in a few weeks' time. So we've survived a lot.
Oh, I could remember that very well because I was very, very cautious about ever telling any girl ever that I loved her. I told Sue that I loved her just before we got engaged. So that would have been in March 1968.
Oh, that chapter 4 is essential reading. If it can open our eyes after 50 years of marriage, it can start young married couples on a far, far better footing than anything the world can offer them these days.
I would say love is, in a sense, it's the Trinity. It's Sue and I together, but with the Lord. I don't think that without our faith in Jesus Christ and our Catholic faith, we would ever have survived 50 years because we're so different. So for me, it's the business of Sue and I are together, but we're together by the grace of God and by His power and not by our own. And I think that's what's holds it together, and hopefully will hold it together as long as we both shall live.
Yeah.
I've lost a lot of hours of I could not sleep after visits, But at the same time, I've seen a lot of the nobility of the human heart. For example, in Nepal, we had a solidarity program to commemorate the first anniversary of the earthquake in Nepal. And I saw how poor the villages. I mean, they were already poor, and now they're destroyed. No? And yeah, but you know, we were welcomed by the villagers, and not even one Christian in the village. But you could see the beauty of the human spirit. You could see the strength of the human heart, you know, and the dignity that the poor possess. We may be poor, but we are human beings. They probably do not know the word caritas, what caritas means, this Latin word. So we had to explain to them. It is love. It is love. And we may not belong to your religion, to your tribe, to your village, to your ethnic group, but we are here. And for only one motivation, it's to love and to assist you, you know, and that remains. You know, and then I see love is really stronger than misery and suffering. And the human heart is capable of so much love.
We were drifting apart and we didn't realize it. 7 years later, and we still didn't have any children. That was really when we reached our crisis point, and then we just really hit the rocks.
Yeah, we were really lucky that we got in contact with Retroy, which means rediscovery, and there was a lot of similar couples giving presentations, which made me realize that we're not alone in this.
We learned to talk to each other without arguing, how to listen to each other, and we learned how to forgive each other as well. That is a step-by-step process to forgiveness, and also that we don't just have to do it ourselves, and that God is with us.
Some people are very lucky. They get a chance. And I got my chance, and I took it. I went to a treatment centre and have been sober since, coming on 14 years now. I was gone from the church, I was gone from everything, but when I came out of treatment, I can see life in a better light now. I was wrong, I did wrong. That's the black hole there now, but my life has opened up again with light, you know, and I'm a happy man now.
Hello and welcome back to the Amoris studio. My guests in studio today are Jerry Mangan of Equip Notre Dame, also known as Teams of Our Lady, which is a Christian movement for married couples, and Jerry is also involved in the great work of St. Vincent de Paul. I'm also joined by Maura Garahy, who works with the Holy Family Mission in the Waterford Diocese here in Ireland, and she's got lots of years of experience working with young people as well. And by Stephen Cardy, who's Chief Executive of Family.ie, an Irish-based Christian initiative whose mission is to encourage families and to strengthen families as well. Thank you so much for joining us on our Amoris programme today. One of the key things that has come across throughout this series is that families need to be strong for each other, but also to help other families. And one of the quotes from Amoris that I love from Pope Francis is that for couples, marriage preparation begins at birth, which is probably something we don't think about enough. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think it's a challenging statement, but a beautiful one as well. I suppose for all of us, we learn marriage prep, we learn about family in our own home environment. And I know for myself, having done my pre-marriage course, and over the next couple of months journeying towards getting married, that definitely what I've learned really has stemmed from my experience at home, seeing my mum and dad praying, seeing my siblings grow up, seeing my family make sacrifices, also then through our own faith formation in our house, through my education, through my own prayer, through meeting like-minded faith-filled couples, having conversations with them, seeing the reality of marriage, not just it through rose-tinted glasses, has been really, really helpful. So I definitely agree. I think we learn marriage, we prepare for marriage right from when we're born.
Is that something, Stephen, that's important when we try to think of that mission of going forth, is that we have to accept that a lifetime with someone is going to be full of highs, but also lows and challenges that we have to try and work through?
It's the most wonderful organisation to be part of as a family, because in a sense that's where we love, that's where we discover life. We realise the realities of life as well, because I was saying to somebody recently that I've been married 30 years now, and I regard myself as sort of halfway through halfway through the game, or sort of
You've
at
a lot to
half time. We've a lot yet to learn. We've learned quite a lot. You know, we've lived the ups and downs. Our 5 children who've lived at home with us have seen what it's like to live with parents who disagree and work out those disagreements. We've discovered that it's very important that we do work out our conflicts. We don't have that much conflict, but when we have it, we fix it. And the nature of having the Lord present in our world, that the children see that what we talk about is not just words, it's reality, that there's forgiveness, there's healing, there's loving, there's building one another up. All of that is part of a normal family life as God designed the family to be. And it's imperfect.
Jerry, how important has it been for you over the years, and I know you've worked with lots of couples, for couples to help other couples and kind of share their own experiences? It's something Pope Francis really talks about, the importance of that kind of couple-to-couple ministry.
Yeah, it's a question really of what marriage offers or what marriage provides for people and so on. I think the title itself, The Joy of Love, is something that struck me particularly, because I remember when I got married first, which is a good while ago, it was the awareness of the affirmation that Grace, my wife, loved me and was prepared to make a lifelong commitment to that. And I discovered that on a marriage encounter weekend, which we did a few years after.
And that's couple to couple.
That was couple to couple. So it's a group of people who come together, and this awareness was part and parcel of the weekend. And I can say that it made a huge difference to our marriage and to our relationship subsequently. And I think that brings home to me the importance of couples being supporting each other and so on.
Well, we're going to come back to our panel very shortly, but first take a look at this short video.
Well, we picked up Amoris Laetitia ourselves soon after it came out, and we studied it a little bit anyway, and we loved it. But not only have we done that, we've been lucky enough to help to present Amoris to a number of different groups. We were part of the parish conversations. We were with couples. We presented it to couples, and also with whole families together. Yeah, I think they love it. These groups love Amoris because it's so real. That the Pope is. You feel that the Pope is there in the midst of your families, the joyous moments, the moments of difficulty, and he really understands what's going on. And he gives such, yes, challenging words, but inspiring words and consoling words.
So he knows really where the family is at in the modern world. He knows the reality of family life. And yet he's not afraid to propose the ideal of Christian marriage and Christian family. And at the same time, he's full of a big warm acceptance for every family, no matter what situation they're in.
Yes, I suppose after all of these different experiences that we've had and moments of reflection or study or whatever, that there's been quite a number. I mean, we could mention lots of different phrases from the book, but one of them especially, maybe I'll read it from you here, is something that was a real moment of light for me and real consolation, was when I read this. The Lord's presence dwells in real and concrete families, with all their daily troubles and struggles, joys and hopes. If these authentic relationships are inspired by love, then the Lord reigns there with his joy and his peace. And so I think this one really meant a lot to me, because we have 5 lovely children and they have lovely families of their own, and we're obviously very happy with them, and our grandchildren. But some of them don't believe in God. And I think, first of all, there'd be the why in me. But when I read this in Amoris, and many sentences like this, it really gave me a moment of light that, yeah, our children are living lives of love, these authentic lives inspired by love, that our children are living these. and that, that I think the Pope quotes somewhere else, that where love is, God is there. So in that way, this consoles me, that God is in their lives.
So, yeah, another sentence that really stands out for us in Amoris Laetitia is that the Pope says that love is a kind of craftsmanship. Now, we really love that sentence because it suggests that, that you're working at it, that you're trying to get better at it, you're trying to perfect it. But also craftspeople make mistakes. We're not perfect. Do we give up when we make mistakes, or do we keep on going? Well, if we want to be craftsmen at our love, at loving each other in marriage and our families, love never gives up. And so to become a craftsman at love, we have to do what the Pope says, love never gives up.
So another excerpt that we've chosen is this one, and it's on Gathered in Prayer in the Light of Easter. And the Pope says, "Moments of pain and difficulty will be experienced in union with the Lord's cross, and his closeness will make it possible to surmount them. In the darkest hours of a family's life, union with Jesus and his abandonment can help avoid a breakup." And we love this. We love it because we know it's true. And we love it because this really helped us go through our darkest hour as a couple.
Yeah, I suppose it was an affirmation when we read that, because we had experienced that. And to hear the Pope writing the very same thing we'd experienced, it gave us greater confidence to even share with one another how we can overcome difficulties, even our darkest hours.
Yeah, it really renewed our faith in this and really gave us a renewed joy and, I suppose, maturity as well,
And so our relationship, like the Pope says, becomes more joyful, more mature when you surmount a crisis in your marriage.
And we're living proof of that.
The final piece we chose from Amoris Laetitia is again from the last chapter. We've chosen a few from the last chapter because the last chapter in the whole conversations sums up everything that's gone before. And so this sentence that we've chosen is right throughout Amoris Laetitia. And so the sentence is like this: all family life is a shepherding in mercy. Now for us this is a really important sentence. It was Pope Francis wrote Amoris Laetitia in the year of mercy, but family life is a shepherding in mercy because we have to continually be merciful to each other, to be merciful towards our children, and of course they have to be merciful towards us parents as well, because we all make mistakes and we have to forgive each other, and that's what family life is about.
That's what I was going to say as well. They very often find that we have to try and be merciful to them and our grandchildren even at moments, but we find that that's reflected, and they have the moments that we make blunders and say the wrong things, or do the wrong things, that they're merciful with us too.
And our children can sometimes wind us up the wrong way. And do you get mad and blow a fuse, or do you be merciful? Well, the struggle is, and the challenge that Pope Francis gives us, is to be shepherds in mercy with each other.
Hello and welcome back to the Amoris studio. One of the most profound things I think in the joy of love is the impact that families can have on the world. And that's something Pope Francis talks about, is if our families are strong, that's good within our family, but also to be able to go forth into our communities and around the world and the impact that can have. And of course, we all want to have a strong family, a happy marriage. Where is the good starting point for that? What are the good building blocks to be able to try and do that?
In my case, I had a good relationship with the Lord, and my wife Margaret, who I married after we'd been going out together for a year, had a similar relationship. So for us, there was a very binding component in our world together that fed into our having children and the way we raised our children, the fact that we had a living faith and that it was very real to us. And we were also together with others who were like-minded. So we sought out and lived in the company, largely in our social world, outside our working world. We lived in the company of people who shared our faith and our values, which was very important because it helped us to be strong in a sense in what we believed in. And love was a core theme in the way in which we lived our lives. And I had a brother who I'm a great friend with. He raised his children like I did. We shared our lives together. Our mother invested in us spending time together. All of those things, like from generation to generation, were significant. And that's one of the beautiful things even about family life in Ireland. That's very strong. And investing in that is really worthwhile.
It's one of the things as well Pope Francis talks about is those little things, as you've given your own examples there of the loving word, even a kind glance. And I love that idea of just starting the day and ending the day with loving words, no matter what has gone on that day. More, as you start to embark on a journey of preparing for marriage and you're thinking about a lifetime with someone, what do you think are the practical things that would help you on that journey to be able to go forth in your married life?
I think community is really, really important when we think of family. I think of the importance of community at home when I was growing up, so other families nearby, friends similar age, and I suppose in my ministry now in Holy Family Mission, like we have monthly family days. We hear of living families, we hear of Cana Ireland, lots of groups within Ireland who are reaching out to do family ministry. So I think regular contact with like-minded couples, trying to bring up their family the best that they can, couples that you can go to and share things that you're struggling with. I think the importance of community and just that we don't isolate ourselves. So I think it would be really, really important that I reach out to community and that I'm surrounded by like-minded people who can witness and role model the kind of family I want to create. I think as well it's probably very important that I'm linked into some sort of a prayer community also. Pope Francis, very strongly in The Joy of Love, he talks about how essential prayer is in the family. In fact, he argues that it can be even more important in evangelization than catechesis or a sermon. And it's so true. I want my children, please God, in the future to see that prayer is important for their parents, like I did in my own home. And just that stability that faith brings, that source that keeps us all together. So I think between community and prayer, there are two things, practical things, that I look forward to trying to live out more.
Sherry, as you said yourself, you're married a long time, and I'm sure through that time there's been ups and downs, and there's a huge amount of pressure, especially on young couples today, a lot of time pressure where just not getting to spend enough time together. What about those times when marriages are frail and they're going through a struggle and sometimes it's hard to see it coming through the other side of it?
Yes, I mean, the thing about marriage, again, from my experience, this is almost a regular occurrence. I mean, you're dealing with all the difficulties in life, work-related difficulties, and also child-related difficulties and whatever. And you need to then have ways of dealing with those. And that's why I think that the organisation I was involved in, or I am involved in, Teams for a Lady, or the Keep Notre Dame, has been a great support in that regard. One of the key ways, I think, is through communication. Pope Francis has a very good section on dialogue in Amoris, and he talks about the need, first of all, to make time to be with each other, because given all the pressures which we're under, and to some extent they're less now when we were younger than they are today, but if you don't make time, your communication will suffer greatly. And if your communication suffers, your relationship suffers as well.
There might be couples feeling, Janie, I barely have time to work on just marriage in my own home, let alone thinking about going out. But is that going out and supporting one another part of what helps our love grow, do you think?
I think it's always important that we're outward looking. And I suppose in terms of mission and love at the heart of that, it's the most natural response is to share something that you really love. And I'm sure all of us here at the table, you could agree that, your family is what you love the most, and your spouse and your children. That's something that you want to share with other people in the community. And this going forth, our primary vocation for those of us called to marriage is that. But it's always important that we keep looking outward and how we can help other people in the community. Just a number of weeks ago, I visited a friend in Donegal, and they've recently had a little baby. They're just married a year and a half, and I was blown away because my friend, I saw her cooking 3 lasagnas, and when I arrived in and I saw this, I was thinking, you only have one child, what are you doing with 3 lasagnas? So 5 minutes later, I didn't pass any comment, I'd only arrived, the doorbell went, and it was one of the neighbours who'd had a bereavement, and my friend was cooking 2 lasagnas just to have. She had texted her friend and said, come on over and collect them. She gave them the lasagnas. She said that she was praying for them. But I thought such a simple action to me helped me understand what it means to go forth, you know, to feel what our community are feeling, and to be there for other families at times when they need it, and to be able to witness something as simple as a lasagna and a cooked meal for them when they were going through their difficulty. It really illustrated to me what it means for love to be part of the mission of family.
Just a final question to everybody. If you could pick one thing from Amoris that really jumped out at you the most, that you think will help you in your married life and in your families, what would it be?
Well, I mentioned, I suppose, dialogue, and I'd just like to expand a bit on it, because Teams of Our Lady that we're in for 25 years, and it essentially deals with dialogue and communication and ensuring that you make time. The other related thing, which is very important, I think Maura mentioned prayer, that there is another focus on prayer, of praying as a couple, praying as an individual, that you set your problems, if you like, to God in prayer, you listen through the Word of God and so on. And that's another dimension of it as well. But I suppose the reason it's called Teams is that we meet monthly, a group of 5 couples with the chaplain. And the support we get from those couples is of great benefit right through all those years. And people tend to remain in it that length of time. And I suppose one thing we would love for this year, I know this year will help us greatly, is to make more people aware of this. It's been in Ireland for over 50 years and originated in France. So it's to make people more aware of it, and that they can benefit from the 25 years of experience we have for that type of experience.
So seeking out whatever group or community is near you that you can plug into and share with others.
I think one of the things that really struck me in The Joy of Love is how real Pope Francis was about the reality of marriage. And he spoke about it as a process of growth, and that understanding that for each spouse, that other person is God's means of helping us mature and helping us grow. And sometimes, you know, things grow by chiseling and tension. And I think it's just admitting that we're not perfect, but that we're striving together to be better and to be united. So really that idea of it, a process of growth, takes a little bit of pressure off.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
I think for me, Amoris Laetitia was very real, and it spoke about God's involvement with us in our life, and the fact that he himself is very real, and he's realistic, and he doesn't pretend. You know, he's a genuine person.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. My thanks to our panel for joining us today, and thank you for joining us during this 6-part Amoris series. Remember, you can watch the whole series online and share it with family and friends by going onto the website amoris.ie, and we do hope that we see you in Dublin for the World Meeting of Families in August 2018.